Story time on how I had a one-night stand with a Postmate delivery man. So I was 17 at the time with a trifling boyfriend. We dated for a year and some months before he decided to cheat on me. And the worst part about it, he cheated on me with my best friend. Long story short, honey, I beat her ass and I cut him off. Not gonna lie, I was traumatized and I got pretty depressed after that. I began eating a lot. Guessing it was a coping mechanism? My mom usually cooked, but when she did it and I was home alone, I just Postmated. I lost my boyfriend, I lost my best friend, I was hungry, and I was sad, so I Postmated some Popeyes. So 10 minutes later, I got the text from Postmates saying Robert will be on his way, and I thought nothing of it. Well, Robert was dropping off more than just food. Apparently, I needed some vitamin D, child. I opened that door, and there he was. It went down! Like for part 2 on how I had a one-night stand with my Postmate delivery man. So like I said, I opened the door, and there he was. When I tell ya, this man was so fine. He said my name and it was music to my ears, child. And let me just say, this was before the pandemic. Not gonna lie, the Popeyes looked good, but he definitely looked better. So I kind of told him to come in while I looked for money to tip him. He was super respectful and said he'll wait outside, but I insisted. So he came in, I made small talk, he laughed, I smiled, he smiled, and we flirted. So by this time we're heavy flirting and I told him I couldn't find any cash, but that I really wanted to tip him. He smiled and said, oh yeah? I teased him and said, you're not ready. He said, come show me then. I got a little shy and told him to come over to me. He came over to me and stood right in front of me. I melted, and this is when I knew I fucked up. It gets wild. Like for part 3. Part 3 about how I had a one-night stand with my Postmate delivery man. So like I said, I lost my best friend, I lost my boyfriend, and up to this point, I was pretty depressed. But all that went away when Mr. Postmates came right up to my face. Mr. Postmates laughed and said, you're cute. I felt a challenge, so I told him, I'll show you cute. He said, show me then. So I made the first move and I kissed him, and then we did the nasty. He took full control after that, and I'm not gonna lie, when we were done, it was kind of awkward. He left because my mom was gonna be home anytime soon. And I think because everything happened so quick, he forgot to get my phone number. I've never seen him after that. And I'm not gonna lie, I Postmated some more so I can see if I can get him again, but I never did. Honestly, I really didn't care because it helped me get over a breakup and a loss of a friendship. So now it's my dirty little secret. Story time on how I caught my sister giving my husband head, so I made both of them drink my pee. Okay, so a quick rundown. At this point, I was married to my husband for 2 years, but we've been together for 5. I obviously knew my sister my whole life, but she was always known to be easy or loose, if you catch my drift. Everyone in the family knew this, but we looked past her thoughtism. So anyways, it's Christmas Eve and we're having a family get together, so there's a lot of us there. Let me make this clear. Me and my sister were close and me and my husband were on great terms, so it's not like I could have seen this coming. So the Christmas Eve party started in the backyard so we can bring Christmas in together, and everything was pretty normal. I did see my sister being a little bit too friendly, a little bit too flirty, but I just thought that was her thoughtism coming out. I thought nothing of it. I didn't think they would stoop that low. Oh well, they stooped, bitch. Like for part 2 on how I caught my sister giving my husband head, so I made both of them drink my pee. So like I said, the Christmas Eve party started and it was all fun and games until I realized my husband been missing for 30 minutes. I didn't even realize my sister was gone. I just thought maybe he wasn't too comfortable around all of my family, so he went to the room. So I went looking for him. Well, he was more than just comfortable, bitch. I opened up that guest room we were staying at, and right there before my eyes, my sister on her knees with his peen in her mouth. They both looked up so shocked, and before they can even react, I ran over to her and grabbed her hair, threw her to the floor, turned around and slapped him. That's right, the almighty slap. Then I proceeded to stomp on my fucking sister. Like for part 3. Part 3 on how I caught my sister giving my husband head, so I made both of them drink my pee. So like I said, I was stomping my sister out. He tried to stop me, which pissed me off even more, so I turned around and kicked him in the balls. He fell to the floor and I stomped him a couple times too. At this point, my husband and my sister are both on the floor crying, asking me for forgiveness. I'm sorry. They weren't going to be sorry if I never caught them. Y'all, I was so angry, I ran downstairs and I took the apple cider, went to the bathroom, and I pissed all in that fucking bottle. And it was a lot of pee, child. I went back to the room and opened her peen-sucking mouth and poured my piss all in there. And as she gagged, I ran to my husband and did the same. Everybody gets pee today. As for part 4, last part of how I caught my sister giving my husband head, so I made the both of them drink my pee. So like I said, everybody gets pee. As my sister's gagging, I ran over to my husband, and as he's trying to say sorry, I opened up that mouth and put the rest of my jizz in there. I was so angry I couldn't stop. I told them both that I cleaned their filthy mouths with my pee, and then I proceeded to start fighting him again. You guys so fucking mad. Oh my gosh. Eventually, the rest of my family heard the commotion, came inside, and stopped everything. I felt good about it, y'all. I don't care. My sister was disowned, and he was divorced. Period. But it's okay, because I got my revenge. I couldn't wait on karma for this one. Story time on how I slept with my professor in class. So I was 18 at the time and he was 38. To give you guys a visual, he was a little bit on the heavy side and he was balding. Anyways, I don't know about y'all, but I suck at math, so I always needed that extra help. And if you guys were wondering, the class is calculus too. Well, throughout the course, I always stayed after class to ask my professor some questions and he was always willing to help. I always caught flirting here and there, but I always pushed it to the side. Well, one day I stayed after class like usual to ask for help, but something changed. He gave me his credit card and told me to go downstairs to get him something to eat and to also get me whatever I want. I hesitated at first, but he insisted, so I took the free food. That kind of became my routine and I found myself spending more time with him. Mind you, I am literally failing his class, each test. But one day before I left, he put his hands on my inner thigh. Then when I stood up to leave, he squeezed my ass, like for part 2.
Story time of the most dirtiest college roommate ever. By the way, we're calling her Jessie. So I moved in before Jessie and I get settled and decorate. The next day, she comes and throws her bag on the bed, then leaves. I thought it was weird because she didn't even say anything to me. Couple hours later, she comes back and I'm like, hello? And she's like, my bad, and comes give me a hug. She smelled very bad. She starts unpacking all of her clothes and blankets, but they smelled like mildew. Anyways, a week later, there's this party going on for freshmen, and she goes, but I stay in because I had a migraine. I told her that when she comes back, can she keep the light off? Now it's 2 a.m., and she comes back in very loud, uses the bathroom, then goes to sleep. And now I'm up, so I got up to use the bathroom too. When I sit down on the toilet, I feel something very squishy. It was dark because, like I said, I had a migraine. I get up, turn the light on, and I was sitting in her shit.
Extremely toxic best friend story time. So when I was in 8th grade, there was this boy. And this boy would go around telling almost every girl that he liked her. And I was one of those girls. And he would do stuff with all of us. And there were like 11 of us. So we all hated each other. Especially this one girl, and we're gonna call her Abby. And every time we saw each other, we would be super mean to each other. Well, a year passed, we stopped talking to this kid. And I bumped into her at homecoming and basically apologized. So after that, we became best friends. And everything was good until every time I told her about a guy, she would start talking to them. Like this one boy that I was Snapchatting and talking to, she accidentally sent nudes to him and said, oh, sorry, I meant to send them to my boyfriend. So then she called one of my other best friends and said, no, it actually wasn't an accident. And of course he told me because he was my best friend. So I was like, whatever, and stopped talking to the boy. And she did it again, like for part 2.
Extremely toxic best friend part 2. So pretty much her excuse for that was, oh, well, he said that he was gonna leak my nudes if I didn't send him them again. Which was a lie because literally half the school already had her nudes. So then I started talking to this other boy. And he lived like right down the street from her. So she was like, if you want to go to his house, you can. And I was like, are you sure? And she said, yeah, just go tell my mom. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went and told her mom where I was going and went over his house. So I walked back to her house and she literally locked me out. Like her mom had to come open the door for me to let me in. And she was like, oh, it's a good thing you came back when you did. Because I was going to drive you home now and tell your dad everything that you did. And she goes, I don't think you guys should be together because you're unexperienced. And she would always tell me how he flirts with her all the time. So after our friendship ended, she goes, I just felt like it was always a competition between me and you.
Story time on how my boyfriend leaked my nudes to my entire school. You heard that right. So I was 15 at the time in the 9th grade and he was 18 in the 12th grade. He was very popular and well known. Even the teachers liked him. And every girl wanted to be with him or get his attention. It was my first year in high school, so I of course fell for that stupid popular guy thing. He was kind of known for being a player and messing with a lot of girls. And yeah, that's a red flag, but we don't see red flags in high school. Well, he seen me in lunch one day and came over to talk to me. All I could do was blush and feel kind of special because here I have the most popular guy in school giving me attention. We started texting and talking on the phone every night. And I even got a little popular myself. Literally only after a month of us talking, one night he asked me to send him a picture. And that's when I make the biggest mistake of my life. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how my boyfriend leaked my nudes to my entire school. So like I said, only after a month of us talking, one night he asked me to send him a picture. Me being innocent minded, I sent him a picture of me fully clothed. Once he got it, he laughed and said, "No, baby, send me something sexy. Show me what you got underneath." My heart immediately dropped. I knew I shouldn't, but he was the popular guy. How could I say no? I trust him, right? He's probably used to this with other girls. I didn't want him to see me as a loser. I just wanted him to like me. Fuck it, I'll do it. I locked my door and took a picture of everything. Yes, everything. Including my cat with my face in it. I sent it and immediately regretted it. There was just something in me that knew I shouldn't, but I just didn't listen to myself. Well, I was right because the very next day was the worst day of my life. Like for part 3 on how my boyfriend leaked my nudes to my entire school. So like I said, even though I didn't want to do it, I did it and sent him the picture. He told me how beautiful I was and how much he couldn't wait to see me tomorrow. Maybe I was wrong. Well, that wasn't the case because literally the next day, not even a week later, the next day while I was walking to my classes, people would be staring, laughing, snickering. I immediately knew what happened and my friends came and confirmed it. I tried calling and texting him and he wouldn't respond. He was such an asshole. And if I seen him, he would act like he didn't know me. It became so big, my parents got involved. So grateful for my parents and how they had my back. They moved me to another school and pressed charges. He ended up getting in big trouble with the authorities. And all my pictures was taken down on his socials and anywhere they were. And now I'm in my new school with none of that drama. But if you take anything away from this, ladies, don't do it.
Story time about my boyfriend's crazy ex-girlfriend. So a little background information. So his ex-girlfriend's parents, they owned a security company, which sold cameras, alarms, and a few other things. So at the end of 2019, my boyfriend broke up with his ex-girlfriend. And by March of 2020, he started seeing me. And at first, we were just keeping things on the down low. Anyways, so after maybe 3 weeks of seeing my boyfriend, his ex sent me an Instagram message calling me a slut. It's the obsession for me. Anyways, what's even weirder is that she knew everything about my boyfriend and I, even the sexual things. Anyways, like I said, I thought that was really weird, so everything that she had sent me, I sent straight to him. Because I thought, obviously, that he had still been talking to her and had told her everything about us. But instantly, he gave me his phone and said go through it, and he had her blocked on everything. So even though it was weird, we moved on from that situation. Well, fast forward another 2 weeks, and his ex calls him while I'm at his house. Like for part 2. Part 2 about my boyfriend's crazy ex-girlfriend. So like I said, she had called him while I was over his house. And somehow she keeps figuring out things about our sex life and personal things that we had told each other. So my boyfriend and I got super suspicious, obviously. Then we started to think, and we noticed that everything that she was telling us were things that we had talked about in his bedroom. And things that we had done. So we ransacked his whole room looking for anything. And what do you know, I found a mini security camera and a microphone pointing out of his walk-in wardrobe directly towards the bed. We took it to the police and tracked it back to her. So it turns out she had used the hidden spare key, which his mom kept under the mat at the front door, which she had known about from when they dated. So she broke into his house, planted a security camera from her dad's business in his wardrobe. So we decided not to press charges because her parents and my boyfriend's parents were friends. So they just talked it out and decided to punish her in their own way.
Part 2 on how I slept with my professor in class. So like I said, I stood up and he squeezed my ass. Please ask me what I did about it. I ignored it and act like it never happened. And just like that, the dynamic of our teacher-student relationship changed. I would stay after class, get his card, we eat, and he fills up on me. I don't know what it was, but I couldn't stop. I liked when he would rub on my thighs. I felt like a bad girl. Woo, it gave me a thrill. Well, this particular day, it got real. He was rubbing all up on my inner thigh, but this time he went up and touched my calf. I knew right away it was about to go down. He pulled me in and started kissing on my neck, and I stood up and got on top of him. And child, we started making out. He stood up to go lock the door and turn off the lights, and it began. Like for part 3. Part 3 on how I slept with my professor in class. So like I said, he locked the door and closed the lights and made his way back to me. He lifted up my shirt and started kissing on my breast. He pulled out his grapefruit, and I think we all know what happened. I was getting my back blown out. Like I said, y'all, I don't know what it was, but there was something about him that I just liked. He was 38, but child, he went to work. The final was a couple days after, and I failed that test. However, I did pass the class with an A. I literally never talked to him after that. We occasionally passed by each other, but we just waved with a little smirk. I'm just glad that it didn't have to get awkward between us and that I passed my class. I just wonder about one thing. How many other students fuck their professor? Story time on how I kissed my boyfriend's best friend on New Year's Day. I know. Before you judge me, hear me out. So on the day of New Year's Eve, my boyfriend called me and canceled our plans to go be with his baby mama. After he's been telling me how much he's so done with his baby mama and that he wants nothing to do with her and that he only talks to her for his kid. Well, me obviously being crushed, I called up all my friends so that we can go out and I can get my mind off of things. I didn't want to go into the New Year's sad. Positive vibes only, baby. So me and my friends end up finding a party to go to, and his best friend happened to be there. I thought nothing of it. He was actually pretty cool. He was hanging out with all of us, partying, drinking. We were just having a good time. It was all fun and games till that clock strike 12. Like for part 2 on how I kissed my boyfriend's best friend on New Year's Day. So like I said, we were all drinking, just having a good old time. Maybe we had a little bit too much to drink because when that clock struck 12, everyone started kissing. I looked at my boyfriend's best friend and he looked at me just smiling. Hunty, that smile had me melting. I grabbed him and we started making out. YOLO. Yes, I made the first move and I would do it again. My boyfriend found out and he was pissed, but I didn't care because he deserved it. And me and his friend started dating and are still currently together. All right, you guys, so that was a quick story time for me to tell you Happy New Year's. Yes. Follow me on Instagram to tell me your stories or ask for any advice. Happy New Year. Let's make it awesome.
Story time about how I got my ex-boyfriend back for cheating on me. So a lot of background information. My ex and I were together for almost 2 years, and throughout our whole entire relationship, he had been cheating on me. I'm not surprised though. But what I am surprised about is that he was cheating on me with my best friend. Well, my ex-best friend now. Before my ex and I got together, my best friend had a crush on him for like a week, right? And then she got a boyfriend. And I had asked her, is it okay if I get with him? Like, him and I have been talking. He said that he really likes me. And she said, yeah, of course, that's perfectly fine. I don't care. I don't like him anymore. So I was like, okay, we're all good to go. So a month later, him and I start dating. Well, I found out that he was cheating on me when I went through his phone and saw all these nude pictures of my best friends and videos of them doing the nasty. So I decided I had to get him back. And my best friend, of course. My best friend was still with her boyfriend. But her boyfriend was my ex-boyfriend's best friend. Like for part 2. Part 2 about how I got my ex-boyfriend back for cheating on me. So I'm just gonna throw this in here real quick. I'm pretty sure the only reason why my best friend did all that stuff with my ex was because she was pissed off at me for actually dating him. Because from what I had heard through other people who knew that she was doing that with my boyfriend, they said that she didn't talk to him or anything anymore. And that she really actually loved her boyfriend that she was with. Little TMI. Throughout my boyfriend and I's whole relationship, he would beg me to be open-minded while being intimate. And he would want to do things that I really just did not want to do. And there was a long list of things that he wanted me to do. So a week later, I told her boyfriend, but I told her boyfriend not to tell her because of my plan. And that whole week, my boyfriend was apologizing to me, saying he was so sorry and that he wants me back, blah, 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 blah. And my best friend thought that her boyfriend was loyal as fuck. Not anymore. So I told him about my plan, which was to do everything that my boyfriend begged me to do during our whole relationship with him. And for him, it would just be enough to send it to her because she thought he was loyal. Like for part 3. Part 3 about how I got my ex-boyfriend back for cheating on me. So like I said, I told her boyfriend my plan and everything like that, and he was on board right away. So he came over to my house, we did all that good shit. Oh, and I forgot to tell you guys. My ex-best friend had begged me not to tell her boyfriend. She was like, you don't get it, like I really love him, like I really don't want to lose him. And I told her that I wouldn't tell him. But I don't really know what her boyfriend did. All I know is that I sent the video to my boyfriend. Oh, and also my boyfriend begged me not to tell her boyfriend because they were best friends. But I did it anyways, and like I said, I sent it to him, and I sent him a long paragraph, and then he sent me, oh, how could you do this to me, blah, 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 you just ruined everything for me, things will never be the same between us, and I was like, yeah, okay, good, I don't care, you were a piece of garbage anyways. But however, my ex-best friend, she took her boyfriend back, and now their relationship is toxic as fuck, and he cheats on her all the time. And they've been together now for like 3 years. Karma is a bitch.
Story time on how I caught my mom cheating on my dad with a woman. Okay, so a quick rundown. At this point, my parents been married for 20 years. They would have little arguments here and there, but nothing out of the ordinary of a regular couple. My dad was a doctor and my mom was a nurse, so my dad worked a lot. But usually when I would come home from school, my mom would be home. Well, this particular day, it was early release, and we all know how that goes. Happy as hell to go home early. Little did I know I was about to walk into some mess, honey. Obviously, my mom wasn't expecting me to be home this early. Well, I opened up that door and right there on the living room couch, y'all, the position she was in. Oh my gosh. It's the audacity for me. Life for part 2 on how I caught my mom cheating on my dad with a woman. So like I said, I came home from school early because it was early release day and my mom wasn't expecting me. I opened up that door and I was literally not expecting anything. But there my mama was, both legs up, wide open with a woman eating that cat. My mouth dropped to the floor and I screamed, oh my gosh. My mom jumped off that couch so fast and pushed that woman so hard she fell to the floor. She tried to cover herself with the clothes next to her and said, baby, please, let me talk to you. And the classic, say it with me, it's not what it looks like. Child, I ran to my room and I closed that damn door. Life for part 3. Last part on how my mom cheated on my dad with a woman. So they got into an argument after I snitched, and basically my mom was reassuring him how she just wants to be with him and that was just a mistake. The relationship was rocky and on bad terms for about a year, but eventually my parents actually got through it. To be honest, it only worked out because it was a woman. If it was a man, I'm pretty sure my dad would have left. We eventually got over it as a family and I got a little brother. But one thing about it, I will always be traumatized.
Story time about my psychotic best friend. So we're gonna call this girl Gia. So a little background information. This all happened whenever I was in 9th grade. I saw Gia sitting at this lunch table alone and I invited her to come sit with my friends and I. And after talking to her, I found out that she was a new student and she didn't have any friends. So her and I started hanging out and we became really close. Like, she would come over my house 24/7. Well, my older sister was a grade above us, and she would act really weird around her. And by weird, I mean like she would always make fun of me in front of my sister, and weirdly enough, try to cause problems between us. My sister didn't really like her. She thought that she was weird, but because she was my friend, she was being super nice to her. Well, like a month later, she started trying to become best friends with my sister. Like, any conversation she would have, I would be like, oh, do you want to come over? She would be like, no, sorry, I'm hanging out with your sister today. And I would go home and I would be like, hey, are you hanging out with Gia today? And my sister would be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, for part 2 about my psychotic best friend. So like I said, my sister was like, no, what are you talking about? So at this point, I'm thinking, oh, this girl's really weird. But it gets even worse. She comes over my house one day to hang out with me and goes in my sister's room the whole time. My sister dyed her hair black, so what does she do? She dyes her hair black too. The obsession was like really fucking weird. Anyway, so the one night that Gia's over, yes, I still had her over after this because I didn't think it was really weird at the time. My sister had her boyfriend over and they were in the living room watching a movie, and the whole time Gia is begging me to go in the living room and watch the movie with them. So I'm like, fine, whatever, we'll do that. We go into the living room, we all sit on the couch, and my couch is kind of small, so like we all had to squish. So she sits her ass right next to my sister's boyfriend. Well, my sister's boyfriend got up and started freaking the fuck out. Well, turns out that Gia was trying to touch him under the blanket. So I told her to leave. The next day I got a whole paragraph of her saying that she just wanted to be like my sister because she never had an older sister.
Story time on how my mom tried to convince me to have a threesome with her. So I had just graduated high school and my mom was single for a while. Then she started dating this guy, which me and my brother really liked, but he was a few years younger than my mom. And honestly, we were happy for her. She was very depressed and miserable with my dad, so we were okay with it because she was finally happy. So like I said, I had just graduated high school and I always said I never wanted to go to college, so I started working retail. One day while I was at work, my mom called me and said, "Hey, let's go out shopping." And who am I to say no? So after I got out of work, I met my mom and we went lingerie shopping. That's what she specifically wanted to get. So we were at the store and the first thing she said was, "Let's get matching sets," which was weird coming from my mom. But I said, fine, come back for part 2. Story time on how my mom tried to convince me to have a threesome with her. Part 2. So like I said, it was really awkward coming from my mom because I've always been close with my mom, but never that close. And like I said, she was miserable with my dad, so I tried to do everything to make her happy. And I said yes. So we got our matching sets and we went home. When we got home, her boyfriend was there. Awkward, but whatever. I said hi to him and went straight to my room. My mom called me downstairs 10 minutes after, told me she wanted to propose me something. But first she said, "So you know there was a reason why I wanted to buy matching sets with you?" And I said, "No." And let's call her boyfriend Brian. She said, "Well, Brian gave me a really good idea. And I wasn't sure at the time, but I want to try new things." And then she said these words, "Let's have a threesome." I was speechless. And she said, "I know it sounds crazy now. Come back for part 3. Story time on how my mom tried to convince me to have a threesome with her." So she said, "I know it sounds crazy now, but hear me out." And then Brian jumped in and said, "It's not an actual threesome. What we really want is for you to watch us, but we want you to wear your mom's same lingerie." And I freaked out and literally rashed my mom and told her that for her, I would do anything. But that is so inappropriate, so disgusting, and most important of all, I said, "I'm your daughter." And only after all of that, she realized what she tried to propose me was wrong. And she kicked Brian out and tried to tell me how she was so sorry that she's embarrassed for herself. And guys, I called my dad, moved in with my dad. I have some communication with my mom, but after that day, nothing will ever be the same.
Storytime, my toxic best friend outed me to the entire school. So one day, one of my best friends from a neighboring school decided to move to my school, and she was extremely upset because her best friend over there came out as bi. So I ended up using this as an opportunity to come out bi as well. And she was like, "Well, it's okay for you. I just got really close to her." We'll call the girl Becky because no one likes a Becky. And we can call her friend Heather. So fast forward to after the situation had calmed down, we decided to all go prom dress shopping. So Heather and I were talking and we really hit it off. And I think Becky legitimately forgot about our sexuality because we were all talking about how much we have in common and we brought that up as well. She just looked at us and was like, "Oh, I forgot about that." And she just shrugged it off. But we continued to hang out for a few weeks. One of these weekends, we all went to church together and the sermon was about how God accepts you no matter what your sexuality is. But of course, Becky turns around to us and says that Heather and I could never date because it would F everything up. Later that day, Heather actually ended up admitting that she had feelings for me, and this is when Becky lost it. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Instagram. Part 2 of my toxic best friend outing me to the entire school. So at the beach later that day, Heather and I decided to tell Becky how we felt. She freaked and wouldn't talk to us and locked herself in the bathroom. And we had to tell her that it's fine, we won't date, just so she would let herself out. I thought she was being entirely selfish, not wanting her best friends to be happy. And then she literally took my phone and went through all of our texts together. She woke up the next day all ready for Heather and I to be together and completely apologized. And then when we went to the mall that day, she walked away from us to go look at the hot guys, but then turned around and got pissed at us for falling behind. And this is why she said she didn't want us to date, yet we weren't even dating. She said she felt like she was gonna have to choose between Heather and I because of the whole situation, and I guess she just picked me. Becky became extremely codependent and didn't want to leave my side. She was pissed if I spent time with anyone else and basically forced Heather out of my life. I ended up running into Heather and inviting her to my 18th birthday, and this is when Becky had her massive breakdown. At my birthday, she outed me to everyone at the party, my mom, and Heather's mom as well. My Insta is linked below for more content.